What's up everyone, Jace Ducia here from Apex Aerotech. Today we're going to take a look at the ARF or almost ready to fly configuration of our 60-inch Slick 360. A lot of great features even for an ARF. Of course, this aircraft is available also in the plug and play or PNP configuration. The ARF is a great choice if you already have electronics or you simply just like to put ARFs together. It's a really quick build, and today we're going to go over the features and the assembly as well. Alright, so I've unboxed the 60-inch Slick. I've got all the parts here. Going to take a look at the fuselage first. As you can see, pilot and cockpit set comes pre-installed for the ARF and PNP. We have the hands-free quick connect device for the aileron servo leads. Going to pull the canopy off, one spring latch back here. Canopy slides off. Going to take a look inside the fuselage. The extensions for the elevator and rudder come pre-installed for the ARF as well. Of course, quick release for the wings. For those tail extensions, we also have a tube that runs from the tail to the center of the fuselage with a string attached here, so you can pull your leads through with the string once the servos are installed and hooked up. Very lightweight, strong and rigid construction. Carbon Kevlar, laminated plywood, carbon fiber, balsa plywood of course. Altogether this airplane will come out to about 6 to 6.5 pounds with the battery. That's weighed with a 6-cell 4,000 milliamp battery, so very lightweight setup. It's pretty straightforward. Alright, let's take a look at some of the other contents. It comes with a wing bag. Here we have in the aileron servo pocket an indication of which way the servo arm should be facing, as well as the orientation of the output shaft of the servo. The ARF, everything is pre-hinged and sealed on the control surfaces. Our SFG bolts for the quick release and attach SFG system. Alright, for the rudder, it's a very quick installation process with a wire that runs through the hinges. Hinges pre-installed. We have the filler piece for the very aft part of the fuselage. Once the horizontal stab is attached, which is quick align horizontal stab system, once that's attached and glued in, we then glue in the filler piece. Alright, speaking of the horizontal stab, we have it right here. Horizontal stab, just like the wings and ailerons, horizontal stab and elevator, pre-hinged and sealed. Quick align system for easy mounting of the horizontal stab onto the fuselage. Alright, we have the cowling. The cowling is pre-baffled for the motor, EPP baffling. The cowling mounting system also has blind nuts pre-installed on the fuselage. We have our bolts right here, so we just need to pull those out, and when we're ready, mount the cowling back on. Our side force generators, which are personal preference and totally optional for performance, but very quick and easy attach and detachment system. Here we have our landing gear, wheel pant and wheel setup. Landing gear cuffs come with the ARF. Wheel pants and wheels, of course. We'll get into the installation of those later in this video. Our axles, and of course our tail wheel here. Alright, we've got the spinner that's included with the ARF, painted to match the color scheme. Velcro for the battery installation. This bag here contains some more EPP baffling. This is to be mounted for the electronic speed controller. Here we have our control horns labeled for each surface. Our ball links and linkages. Alright, here we have our motor installation items, our hardware, and some spacers for the firewall. Depending on your application, you may need to use different spacers. We have individual circular spacers and the full mount version as well. Some zip ties to the ARF. Alright, so that's pretty much the contents of the ARF for the 60-inch Slick 360 from Apex. Now we're going to get into the assembly and get this thing in the air.
This photo shows the ARF contents for the 60-inch Slick 360. We are going to install the GA60 power package on this Slick. It's recommended to sand down the bottom of the control horns before installing. This makes sure that the glue adheres properly. You can use either CA or epoxy to install the control horn. Be sure to cover the entire surface of where the control horn will be installed into the aileron with adhesive. We have cut away the opening for the control horn installation. Be sure that it fits nice and tight and is fully seated. Before installing and setting up the servos, we are going to install the rubber grommets that come with the servo. In this case, we are using the Apex and Theta THM988 servo. This servo arm orientation indicator shows the orientation that our servo and servo arm will be installed. When using the hands-free aileron servo connection device, be sure that the positive and negative markings on the connector match with the servo lead wires. We have routed the aileron servo lead through the wing root. Now is a good time to make sure that the servo is centered before installing the servo arm. We can now put both pieces of the hands-free aileron servo connector back together, again making sure that positive and negative markings line up, along with making sure that it lines up with the connector on the fuselage side as well. For installing all servos, we recommend threading in the screws first, then backing them out, installing small drops of CA to set the thread holes, and then reinstall the servos again. Be sure to install blue Loctite on all servo arm bolts. As you can see, the servo arm is as close as possible to 90 degrees to the servo casing. As mentioned previously, we have used the Spectrum Smart Checker to center the servos before servo arm installation. Here we are using the clamping bolt and the main output shaft bolt as well. It may also be easier to first install the control linkages onto the servo arm before mounting the servo arm onto the servo. Here we can see the flange end of the ball link installed onto the servo arm. Again, this shows the centering process using the Spectrum Smart Checker. You may also notice we are using a 1-inch servo arm on the aileron for maximum servo resolution and mechanical advantage. This still allows us to reach our ample 38 degrees of aileron throw. Again, we will tighten the aileron servo arm bolts using blue Loctite. This shows the proper aileron servo geometry for a centered servo. Here we just need to tighten down the hardware for the control linkage at the control horn location. Again, another shot of the centered servo. We will locate the control horns for the rudder and elevator and install them using the same method as our aileron control horn installation. This shows the elevator, servo arm, and control linkage installed. We can mount this to our elevator control horn. Before installing our tail servos, we will locate the pre-installed and routed tail servo extensions. Each extension has a clamp built in for provided security. Now that we have both our elevator and rudder servos connected to the extensions, we can use the provided string to pull them through the routing tube. Here our servos are installed using the same method as we used to install our aileron servos. It's now time to set up and install the GA60 power package. First, we will bind everything to our receiver to test motor direction. Once we verify that the motor is spinning properly with our ESC wire connection, we can then heat shrink them together for added security. We will install the ESC on the ESC tray located on the bottom of the motor box, and there are built-in provisions for the throttle lead. There are cable tie provisions on both the ESC casing and ESC mount for mounting the ESC. We also highly recommend using cable ties to secure the motor to ESC wires to the motor box. The ESC baffling is highly recommended. To assemble the ESC baffling, you do not need to use any glue, but some small amount of CA can be used to join it to the motor box. No glue is needed for the assembly as everything is keyed and joined together with the built-in tabs of the baffles. Here, just a small amount of CA was used to install the baffling unit onto the motor box. You can see that the airflow will be tunneled through to the ESC. We will locate our mounting hardware for the GA1500R motor. For installation of the GA1500R, we will use 3 of the supplied wooden spacers. We've applied Loctite to the motor bolts and fed them through the rear side of the firewall. The ESC comes with a mountable XT90 connector, and there are plenty of provisions around the battery tray for this to be installed. Before installing the cowling, it's recommended to place the canopy on the aircraft for a proper fit. The cowling installs with 4 bolts. We will use blue Loctite on the threads of these bolts. To install the spinner, we will first remove the spinner cone from the back plate. We can double check spinner gap alignment by sliding the back plate onto the prop adapter of the motor. This shows the installation location of our 6-channel receiver. It's highly recommended to install the provided capacitor, which can be plugged into any open port. Locate all items for landing gear, wheel pant, and landing gear cuff installation. We will first slide the landing gear cuffs into place over the gear legs. Then we can work on installing the axles. The axles have the main axle nut and a collar nut as well. Be sure that the axles are installed in the vertical position. We can slide the wheels into place and then tighten the collar nut on the outside. The wheel pants install by simply sliding over the axle. and then using one screw on the outside through the provision of the gear leg. For the 60-inch slick, the landing gear has a slight forward sweep, but fortunately, the landing gear bolt provisions on the landing gear and the fuselage are keyed for easy alignment to ensure that no mistakes are made in the landing gear orientation. The landing gear installs with 2 bolts, and of course we will apply blue Loctite to these bolts. Tailwheel installation includes 2 screws that will be mounted to the fuselage and then 1 ball link for the tiller wire. We can use some medium CA to install this ball link into the provision on the rudder, and then we can take a look at the provisions on the fuselage for the 2 tailwheel mount screws. To install the quick align horizontal stab, we will ensure that we are able to fit the horizontal stab fully forward against the fuselage. The horizontal stab can be glued in with either CA or epoxy, such as Hysol. If using CA, we will first tack it in with some thin CA, shown in these areas. Then we will use medium CA on the outside 4 intersections. This includes both top and bottom. We can use some alcohol and a paper towel to wipe up any excess adhesive. The small filler piece that joins to the fuselage after stab installation can be installed with adhesive as well, such as CA or epoxy. The rudder is a removable system with 1 hinge wire that goes through the hinges after the rudder is joined to the fuselage. Now it is time to install the Apex and Dualsky 16x7 carbon fiber prop. Notice the threaded backplate hole orientation in relation to the propeller orientation. We will first slide on the prop washer and then the main prop nut. Notice it has a flange side which will slide into the prop washer. We will then install the jam nut. Again, this slides into the main prop nut. Once these both are tightened down, it is time to install the spinner cone. We will tighten the 4 bolts down securely, but be sure not to over tighten them. To install the landing gear cuffs, we will use a rubberized adhesive such as Goop. We can use a piece of tape to mark the bottom of the cuff when it is in place, and this will mark where we will need to apply the adhesive on both sides of the gear leg. Use additional tape taped to the fuselage to keep the gear cuff in place, and be sure that it dries in the upright position. For maximum roll rate, performance, and efficiency, we recommend 38 degrees of up aileron and 37 degrees down. This shows recommended starting points for deflections of high and low rates, as well as recommended starting exponential values.
So we've mounted the wings. I've left one side unlocked to show you the difference in the quick release mechanisms when they're locked versus unlocked. This left wing here is unlocked. You can see the black tab. This helps ensure that the canopy cannot be installed on the aircraft without the wing being locked. This right wing here is fully locked and ready to go. You can see the tab seated flush against the framing of the fuselage and the bolt from the wing being clamped and locked. So I slid the wing back out to show you the hands-free aileron servo connection. With this mechanism, the aileron servo is always plugged in while the wing is connected. Basically, the insert marked positive and negative matches up
with the connector from the wing root. Just be mindful of those positive and negative markings when installing your servos. The wing bag shown here does come with a 60-inch slick. I'm going to grab the SFGs and show you the installation of those. The installation of the SFGs is very simple. You can see that they are keyed for a quick attach and detach. We're going to make sure that these two thumb screws are threaded out a little ways. Once we have the thumb screws through, we slide the SFG back a little bit, and then we just tighten the thumb screws and it's ready to go. So that covers the close-up overview of the 60-inch Slick 360 from Apex Aerotech. A lot of features, a lot of pre-installed items on the 60-inch Slick, which make the assembly very quick and enjoyable. For the PNP edition, you can likely get it in the air as soon as 45 minutes to an hour typically, depending on your experience level. For the ARF, not a whole lot more than that. It's basically just installing the servos and mounting the motor and ESC. So a lot of great features on this one. Very simple setup when it comes to a radio setup. 6-channel receiver recommended. If you're using flight modes, as far as the high rate goes, we typically run about 38 degrees up aileron and 37 degrees down, equal on the right and left wing, of course. For the tail, we typically end up with about 55 degrees elevator and then maximum rudder. Like I said, that's all with high rates. You can adjust your expo to your personal preference. Typically, we recommend starting with around 50 to 60% expo if you're going to run the travels that I mentioned there. For CG, we did show the battery location, but as mentioned, very wide CG range. When it comes to the maiden flight, the first thing we always recommend is to make sure the aircraft is trimmed, and then you can test the CG. Many people have different ways to test the CG. Normally we do different inverted tests first. The inverted 45-degree line test, where we pull to a 45-degree upline, roll inverted. We see how the airplane reacts. Some people that like a slightly tail-heavier CG, the aircraft will draw, a steady line. It won't fall off at all. Personally, I typically like it when the aircraft draws possibly 2 to 3 fuse lengths and then falls off. So the 45-degree line test is a good one. Straight and level inverted line test. For me personally, for example, I like to breathe on the down elevator a little bit. Some people like hands-off inverted. Some people like to push, a little bit more substantially down elevator. It's all personal preference, but this video showed where I personally like it, and you can adjust from there. So trim, CG, adjust CG if needed, and depending on your flight modes, you can fine-tune that a little bit. Being an electric aircraft, we recommend some sort of throttle cutoff on a switch, just good safety precautions. And of course, when you're maintaining your aircraft, working on it, setting it up, be mindful of the propeller. Probably a good idea to take it off while it's plugged in and everything is functioning for setup. For unboxing, it's always a good idea to inspect the covering, take an iron to it, make sure all the seams and corners are sealed down. These aircraft have been through a lot in their travels from the factory to your door, so it's a very good idea. There may be some wrinkles that need to be seated down a little bit, all typical things when unboxing an ARF. Those are all things that we recommend for people that may not be familiar with this type of aircraft. Just like anything else, the more you do it, you kind of have your own routine, your own preferences. There's not a right or wrong for your setup, your CG, flight modes, that sort of thing. As long as you maintain your aircraft, it's flying to your personal preference, then you're doing everything correctly. So we just want to send our appreciation for watching this overview video of the 60-inch Slick 360. Very well-balanced aircraft. We're very proud to have this aircraft as our first launch for Apex Aerotech. It fits pretty much all flying styles, very convenient.
no matter your experience level. So we're very happy with it. Of course, feel free to contact us anytime via our website or info@apexaerotech.com. And of course, stay tuned on all our social media channels, our YouTube channel, for more content, flight video, more technical tips, that sort of thing. So once again, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you at the field.